I'm not sure whether our next speaker wins best fact of the evening, because since telling other people in the room about some of his brilliant facts, they've kind of trudged their memories and come up with some fantastic stuff. But I think he definitely wins the prize for having the most brilliant facts. So, he was the youngest ever lighting designer to have a West End show, to work on a West End show. He used to let Phil Collins share his cab to rehearsals. He's rather amusingly classed as undesirable by the Canadian authorities, and every time he enters the country, the British Embassy have to actually get on the phone and vouch for him so he's allowed in. He once flew from Barcelona back to Heathrow as the only passenger on a DC-10 cargo plane. And I put this one in myself because he told me the story a while ago, and it is absolutely brilliant. Both his daughters were once given detention because they were told to stand up and tell a story about what had happened at the weekend. And it was one of their birthdays, and so they stood up and told the story about how Peter Andre had phoned them to wish them happy birthday, which was in fact entirely true, but the teacher didn't believe them for a second, told them not to tell lies because it was a bad thing, and put them in detention. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not entirely sure what he's going to talk about. I'm sure it'll be brilliant, and if you want to collar in for some more stories later on, I'm sure he'll hate me for saying that. Eamonn.
I might have got some great stories, but I can't remember any of them unless I write them down. So I'm going to start with the notes first. I just thought we should pause to think about what culture is, and are we discussing the everyday interactivity between people in Sheffield? Are we discussing how to be perceived outside of Sheffield? Are we discussing how we want to be perceived outside of Sheffield? This is a comment by George Orwell in 1937, and I think it could possibly still be true. And really, I just wanted to ask what we thought about moving Sheffield forward from that, and have we moved it forward from it? Right, so I'm going to use the little icons at the top. S is for steel. Love it or leave it, it's part of the cultural heritage of Sheffield. This is a chap called Harry Brearley, who invented stainless steel in 1913. So we have an opportunity in 3 years' time to possibly do something culturally around that. Now, this reflects on a story from Johnny, and H is for hills, should I say? Johnny told me a story a few weeks ago where people who live in hilly environments are apparently better at problem solving because they see things from more perspectives. This is E for education, and Sheffield has 12,000 graduates each year, 92% of which go on to full-time employment. Wouldn't it be great if we could take all of those people and turn them into cultural ambassadors for Sheffield? F is for football. Sheffield is the home of football. The rules were invented here in 1857, and yet culturally it crosses all boundaries, and yet we do nothing about it in Sheffield. We don't support this football club. There's not the museum to soccer that there ought to be, but there you go. F is for film, for fiction, and also for Fright Night. I just think we've got so much stuff going on in Sheffield, and one of the really unique things is Fright Night, which could become a national event if we just kind of like embraced it a bit more. I is for innovation, and Sheffield University currently has 5 Nobel Prize winners on its staff. We have the Advanced Manufacturing Park, the Hallamshire Hospital. The hospitals in general are regarded as centres of excellence, and we have a semiconductor technology centre of excellence. Right, so E is for environment. A third of our city lies within the Peak Park. No other city has a national park boundary. Has a national park within its boundary. We have 150 woodland parks, and we have 50 public parks. Half the population live within 15 minutes of the countryside. L is for the largest village in the world. we need to decide if we're going to be a cluster of hilltop villages that loosely call itself Sheffield, or if we're going to be an international player, or if we just want to be a little parochial town somewhere up north. D is for Designed in Sheffield, which I don't know how many people here are familiar with it, but it's a great concept about tagging work by designers across all disciplines from Sheffield, and basically getting the Sheffield brand out there as a trademark or even a sort of quality assurance mark. Okay, pause. P is for pause. P is also for prisoner of war. This is the badge cap from my uncle Hines, who was a prisoner of war at Lodgemoor prisoner of war camp. And I just think we need to remember that a lot of Sheffield's culture is based around people coming into the city. There's a lot of Italians, there's a lot of people who just come into the city and form popular culture. C is for Crucible Theatre. Crucible Theatres and the Sheffield Theatres Complex is the largest theatre complex outside of London, and we should make a big thing about that, but we don't really. Right, U is for the United Kingdom Census. The 2001 census told us that in Sheffield there were 640,720 people. 91.2% were white, 4.6 Asian, 1.8 black, 1.6 mixed race, I'm going to carry on, 68.6 Christian, 19.9 were without religion, so that might go back to Friday night. L is for liberal attitudes and the Socialist Republic of South Yorkshire. I think that people of Sheffield are generally quite conservative, but we have a real belief in fairness and equality. And then T is for transport links, of which we don't have very many, or not many that are very good. Anyway. We sort of had an airport, it went away, then we sort of have got another airport now. We need to decide what we're doing about transport in the city, to and from the city, otherwise it will never be an international player. Right, U is for urban landscape, not urban splash. This building, which you all know as Park Hill Flats, was kind of built around an ethos that came out of a guy called Corbusier, who you might be familiar with. Again, Sheffield has some brilliant landmark buildings, but it doesn't celebrate any of them. And R is for rivers. Without the river Sheaf, there would be no Sheffield. I think we could do a lot more with the rivers around Sheffield, especially Lower Don Valley. You know, if we're going to turn that into a sort of sporting centre of excellence, let's also turn it into a Thames or a Seine. And this little thing here, E is for enlightenment. I don't know if any of you guys have ever spotted these. They are on top of the Ha-Ha Bar in the Peace Gardens, and they celebrate this little drawing by Pablo Picasso, which he did at Butler's Cafe, which is up the road there in 1953, I think it was. I won't say what this is, it only says the stop button, and it's my time to stop, but remember that you could be the greatest culture on earth, but someone's always going to come along and knock you off your pedestal. That's it.